Welcome to MSP Unplugged, episode number 48, Automated Configurations. I'm your host, Jeff Hallish. This is our live show where we discuss different ways to run your IT business, whether it's managed services, consulting, break fix, or anything in between. I want to give a first call to action, and we're going to have Paco LeBron tell you what that is before we introduce the other co-host. You can go ahead.
That guy. So as everyone knows, it's my favorite topic to talk about is it's a reverse of camera. You got to work for the effects. TechCon Unplugged. It is our annual show that we are bringing back here in September 17th to the 19th, and we're bringing it into Chicago, but really in Rosemont Rise. I know a lot of us diehard Chicago. We always try to say, if you're from Chicago, you're from Chicago. If you're all the way out in like Park Ridge, you're not from Chicago. But anyway, that's the whole deal from there. You're in the Chicagoland area, but September 17th to the 19th, we're going to go ahead and assemble a lot of great folks. As everyone knows who had attended in 2019, we were in Grand Rapids. We had a great time. We had over close to 100 people all together, pressing the flesh, which we can't do probably in September, but we'll probably rub elbows. We were able to get a lot of great content, not only from attendees that were our peers providing some of these speaker topics, but we also have a lot of great vendors that were signed up back then in 2019. And we have quite a few that are signed up now for 2021. You can go ahead and pick up a ticket for only $199. And what does that bring you, Jeff? Well, I'll tell you what that brings you. It'll bring you basically the purpose of the conference is we wanted to make it as convenient as possible for everyone, meaning to go there to attend and not have to worry about other extravagant items that you may think would be associated with going to Chicago. So food being one of them. Well, if you purchase your ticket, all food is included. So we're going to take care of you for the Friday night social, which will just basically be a great networking event for all of us together. And from those that attended in 2019, the food was really, really great. We will then take care of you for breakfast and lunch, going on to the following 2 days. That's Saturday and Sunday. And then we'll also do another social on Saturday, which will be currently right now we have it set for Dave and Buster's. And so when everyone was at the one in 2019, had a great time, a lot of great food, and all around great time. So it was all included in that ticket sale. Plus, we were able to negotiate the hotel rates, where in Chicago, as you know, hotel stays are probably pretty expensive. Well, here in Rosemont, we were able to do it in the Chicagoland area. We got it for $124 a night, and we included free parking. So that is something that is unheard of in the Chicago area, especially when you try to park, even to go and get a glass or a pitcher or a gallon of milk at a convenience store. You got to pay somehow. So they'll get you one way or the other, and that's just the Chicago way. But in this case, we go ahead and have it for the parking. It'll be included for free. So if you are interested to kind of see the news that we will be updating everyone, go ahead and either sign up for our newsletter over at techconunplugged.com or feel free to purchase a ticket. One thing to note is, with everything going on and the restrictions that we have a limited amount of people that we can have at the particular location. So if we do sell out, we will have a waiting list so that you will have the ability to, once things hopefully will open back up, we'll make sure to include you as well. So it's not kind of how it was before. So if you are intending to attend, I would really suggest to buy your tickets now or as soon as possible, because once we start revealing who's attending and what we have in store, we're pretty sure it's going to sell out before we get to September. So techconunplugged.com, and we will see you there.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. Let me go ahead and introduce our other co-host. And you just heard from Paco LeBron from Prodigy Techs. And I probably should have done that in that order. But, hey, we change things up because it's my show. I can do whatever I want. So with that being said, we have David Nevins from, is it Simeon Cloud? Did I say that right?
Perfectly.
Okay, awesome. I was going to ask you before the show and I totally forgot. So David, great to have you on the show and good to have you here with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about, why don't you give a little background on yourself and where you came from and how you got into this industry and how you got to be doing what you're doing now?
Certainly. I'd be more than happy to introduce myself. So, of course, my name is David Nevins. I actually graduated college not too long ago and was fortunate to be introduced into the MSP world by my brother. He was always running an MSP since he was in his teens, getting involved in the computer industry, worked his way up through software engineering. And so I really took after him with the technical background. And although I didn't study necessarily computer science or information systems while in college, I was fortunate to always have that technical side, poking around with computers, just always doing a lot of video work and editing and just always on the computer. And so when this opportunity came around while I was quarantining initially, I was in New York with my family in March now, almost a year ago. We didn't think it would be stretching this long, but it certainly has. And this opportunity came along, and I thought this would be a great way to, use my technical interest as well as my, just long-standing interest in getting involved in kind of the computer science, information technology world. And so when that opportunity came along, I was like, all right, this is perfect. I'm not really doing anything at this point. Let's hop right into it. And so I've been fortunate to be able to become one of the heads of product management or product at Simeon, as well as one of the engineers. And although I don't necessarily have a traditionally technical background, I've found myself able to pick it up very quickly. We have a great team. We're always teaching each other. And as I was telling, I think Paco before, one of the best ways to teach one of your techs is by just leaving them to learn it. And that's certainly been the way I've learned a lot about Simeon. And so I've been really fortunate to step into this role at an early stage in the company.
It's funny because I think a lot of us have that same type of mentality when it comes to anything inside of this type of business, whether, anything IT, information technology. And I think we learn to do things, and then we have other people. It's better now, obviously, with the internet and Google and search and all that kind of stuff, where you can get information at your fingertips and basically learn as you go.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of, and I've shared this story in the past, but a lot of my tech support in the beginning was basically calling one of the manufacturers, late at night when their techs were bored, and they would, give me commands and functions and things to do, simple things like, formatting a hard drive or something like that. And I used to write them all down on 3x5 cards, and that's kind of how you learn.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
That way I had all that information at my fingertips, so it was kind of cool.
And a little different than engineering, but my brother actually used to tell me about how the only way to get information or advice as to how to beat a video game when it was on the N64, you had to call this hotline up, and you would get like you had to pay, I think, for one piece of information on the game. So it's just, similar to that, where, fortunately I'm able to use Google and all those search engines. And, I was able to, get pretty well versed in PowerShell just simply through those LinkedIn learning courses as well as YouTube courses.
It's funny. It used to be a sense of pride to me when I was playing a video game to complete the video game without looking at any cheats or anything like that. Nowadays, I'm still fairly good at video games, but there are spots that will catch me in certain games, and I'll be like, I don't understand it. I don't know where to go from here. Let me look this up, or even how to beat a boss. Okay. Yep. Everything I've done, everything that I've learned throughout this whole game, I still can't beat this boss for whatever reason. I can go watch a 2-minute video from somebody that shows you how to do it, and boom, there you go. Bob's your uncle.
I always try to refrain from looking up the how-tos, but sometimes you can't, and you just cave.
Yeah, it's hard because there's only so many hours in the day, right? And I can't spend the amount of hours that I used to playing a lot of those games.
Of course.
You can't, or you don't want to?
No, I can't. I mean, no, I want to. I absolutely want to. I could probably play. Well, that's not true. I think I could play 24 hours a day, but I think I'd get bored with that too. So it's, it's like that with everything.
I will say that I haven't picked up a video game, I think, for about since 2015 or so. And then I picked up my a Nintendo Switch when I had got sick with a cold. And yes, it was a cold. Probably about a month ago or so. So it was like 2 days I was completely down. And that was probably the most fun that I had in quite some time, where I just got the Switch and bought, I think it was Mega Man X, and just lived the Super Nintendo days that I had way back when. So I can see how it could be very soothing.
What's funny, and my wife doesn't understand this, and I tell her, I'll play like Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Warzone, play the Battle Royale, or just play multiplayer. I love both the games. And I will sit there and I will play. I will yell at the screen. I will yell at other people. I jump up and down. It's so intense to me I actually thought about starting a stream just to watch my antics because it's so hilarious. And my wife does. I told her, I said, at the end of that, I get done. I am the most relaxed I'm ever at in my entire life. Everything
So
else,
get
I
it
got.
all out.
Yeah, I mean, I get anxiety about, not getting this done or not getting that done or whatever. After I'm done playing for a couple hours, man, I'm like, just like, even though I've been like, frustrated, jumping up and down and yelling at the screen, it's still, it's relaxing to me. I don't know why. That makes me kind of weird. I get it, but I can't explain it. The brain, it's just how it works. All right. So let's go ahead and get back on topic now that we, now we have, video games for us. We'll move on from there. So, David, so tell us a little bit about Simeon and what they do and what they bring to the table.
Certainly. So Simeon at its core is a configuration as code software. So it's a .NET app written in C#. So it's not like we're using PowerShell in the background or DSC or anything like that. And really what we're trying to do is fill a gap that in Microsoft's platform. So as we know, we have all these extremely powerful tools, Office 365, Azure AD, and of course Intune, and they're incredibly unwieldy. They're very difficult to approach. And even if you are able to learn the ins and outs of these different stacks, we can call them, even if you're able to learn the ins and outs of these different Microsoft platforms, you're left with this problem of applying all those configurations to your different tenants. And as we know, MSPs can have anywhere from 1 or 2 tenants to hundreds, even thousands of tenants. A lot of the people we encounter have between 50 and a couple hundred tenants. And so if you're configuring everything across O365, Azure AD, and Intune manually, you're spending a ton of time doing so. And at the end of it all, you really don't know whether or not it was configured correctly because you're doing it by hand. You're probably just following a checklist. And so what we've done is we've attempted, and I think we've done this very well, is automated the management of configurations across tenants. And so we do this, so we do this through what we call a baseline. So let's say you, Paco, you're getting into using Intune a lot. And so let's say you figured out your ideal Intune setup. This is exactly how you want it. We can call it your golden image or your baseline. And you want to apply this to all of your different tenants. Doing so would take a ton of time if you even remembered how exactly you did all of that. And again, at the end of it, you're still prone to human error. As with everything, we're prone to human error, and there's all these different screens. You might misclick one thing, and then your conditional access policy is messed up, locks you out, whatever it might be. And so with Simeon, you can instead, once you have that ideal image or that ideal set of configurations, you can simply apply that to all of your tenants. And on top of that, you can layer on the tenant-specific configurations. The main question we were trying to answer with Simeon is if 90% of configurations are consistent across tenants, which we certainly believe they are, even across tenants of all sizes, why not manage them together? Why not manage them centrally? And so that's what we have strove to do with Simeon.
Very cool. I like that because I think at the end of the day, and you just mentioned it, I think a lot of times we love to do things from memory, but especially as you get older, the memory is not as sharp as it used to be. And so to do things over and over and over again, that's one thing. But when you're going in to configure stuff, it's nice to have some sort of image that you can rely on, because at the end of the day, that's going to save you a bunch of time and a bunch of money. And I know a lot of people don't equate the both of time and money. But the thing is, if you're spending your time doing that stuff instead of getting more clients, then you are spending money that that you're not making by not getting other clients. So,
absolutely.
So let me drive it home even more for that. It is a pain in the to have to remember the setting. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So, for those that don't know what Intune is basically Intune is, and then there you can help help mold what I'm trying to say in a better sense, because I tend to ramble. But essentially, Intune is the ability to manage your fleet across devices, whether it's Windows, iPhone, Mac, Android, etc., to a more standardized practice when it comes to deployment of software, to security policies, you name it, with a lot of components and policies inside of this system. And it's a complex system that I've heard has changed dramatically over the last 8 months to include a lot of the great features that can be benefit from it. So the best way to go through this, in my opinion, is because when I first looked at Intune and I saw all of the modules and links and stuff, I said, yeah, expletive here. I'm going to try something else. And a lot of MSPs will think, all right, well, my RMM can do this. And there is a lot of benefit to embracing Intune, whether you are in a Microsoft 365 environment or even in a Google Workspace environment, allowing you to include Intune Microsoft 365 in a Google Workspace environment to help manage some of that fleet is very beneficial. So what I will say is we'll have one link in the show notes, but I would say to check out the video in the Tech Tribe. So for those that know, Nigel Moore, who we had on the show previously, has an IT community called the Tech Tribe. There is a video in there that says how to automate deployment for your systems, and it's with a gentleman named Ernest Murray over at, I believe it's Genuine Tech. He's the CTO over there. So that's one video that gave a great overview of what's Intune doing, how it can benefit you, things of that nature. And if that interests you, he has another video that he's mentions in there that he did with a VoIP provider called, I think, OIT VoIP. But if you type in OIT VoIP and Ernest or Intune, you'll find his video that he did with him about 8 months ago, which has some things that have changed since then. But he shows you how to create, deploy, and set up Intune out of the box from scratch, from start to finish, and how it looks on the user's end as well. So those have been very helpful to get into Intune. And then understanding the licensing you need, which is business premium is the baseline of what you want to get. Or if you have an enterprise, you want to make sure you have I think it's E5.
E3 or E5.
E3 or E5, and then making sure with E3 you have, if you want to do the auto deployment or auto enrollment, you want to make sure you have either the Azure Premium or the Enterprise Mobility package as well. But these are all things I had to learn in the last probably 96 hours as I was deploying this for a lot of clients. So nice. It's fresh in my memory, so I'm able to do that. So these will be great resources for those that are interested and hoping to get more exposure to it as well. So I say all of this to say that the reason why Simeon Cloud makes sense is because it's not a typical add a couple things here, add a couple things there. There are layers of menus that you have to get into and things that you want to deploy. And it ranges anywhere from, enrolling your device, making sure there's a standard of settings, which looks like basically a GPO of, things down to restricting Edge, OneDrive, having certain features of OneDrive to be done. And these are all individual line items you're doing one by one. Uninstalling specific Microsoft Store apps, things of that nature. Once you've gotten this whole nice, great template, it's only for that one instance that you're doing it for. So it's your one client. So if you want to mimic this over and over and over again, I mean, from me learning, it literally took me 2 to 3 hours, hands-on keyboard, not mentioning the researching or whatever, hands-on keyboard to configure everything. I'm trying to, does this work? Is this working? This thing is happening? Things like that. It may end up being an hour or 2 hours once I get it down. But again, it's an hour and 2 for every client that you have, which is why a solution like this makes sense, because then, as David will probably go more into detail, once you have that baseline, Simeon makes it that much easier to deploy this across your entire client base. But David, I'll let you kind of carry it on from there, from the baseline conversation.
Certainly. You've hit on many different things I was going to talk about. So the first thing is that, you're mentioning these spending numerous hours setting configurations up. And at the end of that, the biggest thing is you don't necessarily know if those configurations work. So maybe you set up a conditional access policy to limit sign-ins or to restrict sign-ins to a certain location. You have to test that conditional access policy, right? Otherwise, you're just creating a policy and you just think it works, but it very well may not work. And I've created many policies that I would think in theory they do work, but they don't. And so one of the biggest propositions that we have with Simeon is the Simeon baseline. And it's a set of about 95 configurations that we've created over time and what we found to be best practice configurations. And if you do use the entire Simeon baseline, it'll even bring it can bring your secure score up to above 95%, which is, remarkable for a number of MSPs, really focusing on that secure score. But, so we really are cutting down time, but we're also offering people the opportunity to use Intune without necessarily spending all the time that, say, Paco spent learning Intune. And one question I have for you, Paco, with what you've been mentioning about the Tech Tribe and the different tutorials on there, I'm curious, was Ernest doing it with PowerShell scripts, or was he just showing off the different screens?
Just the different screens. Yeah, basically keyboard and mouse, slugging it out, going through, trying to here's what's this, and then even toward the end of one of the videos, he says, "Oh, yeah, this didn't work out right. It was supposed to install, not uninstall." So he had to go back in there and read. So and it just highlights exactly what you mentioned, is the human error of, he's done this 15 million times probably on a lot of the devices, but and the benefit for me on Intune that we're getting into is we're having a lot of clients getting new equipment, and being able to have a lot of my all-inclusive clients just switch the licensing over from standard to premium, because it is all inclusive in their bill, so they won't notice the difference. Having me order it from Synnex, give them the Intune information that they need, or me getting the information from them. I haven't figured that piece out, but I know that there is a way of connecting the two from Lenovo, where the client will have the laptop shipped to them. They log in and all the Intune stuff just pops in there.
Absolutely. So that's autopilot. And in the Simeon baseline, we do offer a fully configured Intune environment with autopilot. So let's say you use the Simeon baseline, you deploy it to one of your tenants, you package a bunch of apps, and then you have a fresh PC. And I've actually done this a bunch in the past 24 hours. Right after this call, I am going to be doing that with someone, showing them how to just type in their Microsoft credentials. So we all you need the computer in an out-of-box experience state, OOBE, whatever you call it. So basically the screen where you've gone through the setup, you've chosen your location, your language, your keyboard setup, and then you're prompted with sign in with a work or school account. You select your work account, you type in your account, and then it will immediately start configuring that computer accordingly with how you have it set up in Intune. It will install all apps for you. One example I like to mention is one of our engineers at Simeon actually received a new company computer the other week. We're testing out different high-end computers for our developers, and he was able to open up the computer, log in, and in about 20 minutes be on a Zoom meeting with all of his programs installed, ready to go, writing code on the meeting, sharing his screen. So instead of spending the hours it takes to set up each computer, you're able to use autopilot for that. And with Simeon Cloud, we're really trying to enable people to use Intune without having to know all the ins and outs of the screens. And then even for those who know all the ins and outs of Intune, we're trying to save them time, save them money. And Jeff, one crucial thing that you mentioned that I really like to mention as well is that if with your time saved, you have time freed up to then grow your practice. The reason that Simeon was founded is because the founder was running his MSP and realized that, okay, I don't want to hire more people to scale, but I want to scale my practice and I want to manage it, more sophisticatedly. I want to have all of my tenants consistent, and I want to scale without having to hire people, because as we all know, it's very difficult to find good talent in this field. And so he created the software and enabled himself to scale without having to hire more engineers, grow his practice, grow his revenue.
David, I like what you're talking about too, when you talk about a baseline or having somewhere to start. And I love when a company does this, because at the end of the day, when I look at configuring something, I'm more one of those, I'm not a creative as far as creating something. I'm more, I can massage it after I have the foundation. So I want a starting point. I want somewhere that I can start and go, okay, like you said, these are the best practices. I hate that term, but I understand what it means. And so this is what we're going to do. we're going to have these things in place already, and we can take that and we can massage it or change it to what we particularly need, but it's not like we're reinventing the wheel every time. And I love that about any type of product.
Precisely. And once you do modify the baseline to become your own, you make it your own ideal baseline, you make it work for your needs, then you can just copy that out to everyone. You can deploy it out to everyone. All of your tenants will be consistent. And so one of the biggest things is our ongoing management as well. A lot of people are currently automating their Intune setup with PowerShell scripts. So they'll write a PowerShell script that sets them up about 75% of the way. But after that, there's no ongoing management. So with Simeon, you're able to add a configuration to your baseline at any point in time and automate that out to all of your tenants. So instead of having to go into each individual tenant and make a configuration change, because let's say I decide, okay, I want to start doing conditional access policies differently. Now, am I going to go back to my 150 tenants who aren't going to pay me anymore to do this? And am I going to go make that change? A lot of MSPs won't. And so with Simeon, we're making it so you can go back and prioritize those tenants. One thing we kind of joke around about is that we say no tenant left behind, and we mean that genuinely, because we really want MSPs to be able to offer their old tenants the same services and the same expertise as their new tenants. Because as we all know, a lot of MSPs, their older tenants can get left behind, and that is what results in a hack or something like that. And so with Simeon, you can instead just add a configuration to your baseline, deploy it out to all of your tenants. So we're really enabling MSPs to automate their environment setup and save them time, but also to keep track of all of their tenants, know the state of all their tenants, and keep them all consistent and up to date, even if they're extremely old tenants.
Wow. That's pretty impressive, because that's what we want. We want ease of use and all that kind of stuff. So Paco, when you were looking into this and trying to figure out over the last however many hours you've been working on this, setting this stuff up, was as far as ease of use, were you able to kind of make a headway in have it make sense to you in setting things up?
Without having to rewind the video over and over again on some of the pieces to understand what they are, I will say that Microsoft has made some footnotes a lot easier to understand. But is it ease of use? Is it user friendly? No. I mean, I think that, there are, just understanding the layout of certain things and getting back to menus and stuff like that. And you thought one thing was somewhere and it wasn't.
Or it exists in two different places, named differently.
Exactly. Or just like, okay, perfect example, like understanding licensing, right? And being able to figure out that one piece is disabled when you're trying to run autopilot through Intune, and it's not working because you didn't have the right licensing. It's these things that are this was a lot of calls. This was a lot of talking to our distributor, Pax 8, talking to Nick, who's the resident Microsoft guy over there. It was ease of use. No. And I'm sure that with, and I have seen Simeon Cloud's interface, it makes it so much easier to, once you've developed those baselines, and especially that have been developed, than just deploying them. I mean, it was a matter of what, like a couple of clicks of a button that we were looking Absolutely. At when we showed it.
Yeah.
Here you're going, I could tell you it's more than 3 clicks for going through Intune and autopilot by itself. So that's for sure.
Just to do one configuration, it takes a long time. And so we have one screen that we call reconcile, which is basically adding configurations to your tenant. So instead of having to go through the portal, we have a list of configurations, checkboxes with descriptions about what each configuration does, why we recommend you use it, and what the end user impact is, as well as some additional links to documentation. And on that screen, you can simply select, all right, I want these conditional access policies. I want these device configuration profiles. I want to set up a fully configured autopilot environment. I want these packaged apps. And just with the click of one click each, and then I confirm it at the bottom, I sync it, and 2 or 3 minutes later, my tenant will have all those configurations. So, it saves you all that time of learning the portal. And even if you do know the portal, like someone like Paco, he understands it, but saving the time of going through all those different screens, it's really, really important. And one of the different things that we're really staying on top of for MSPs are the changes that Microsoft is regularly making. So, it used to be you went into portal.azure.com, then went to the Intune section, but now they redirect you to endpoint. their endpoint website. So not only have they changed the website, but they've also regularly changed the locations of different configurations. They changed the names of different things. They're currently changing the name, the Azure AD role, company administrator to global administrator. They're only changing it in certain tenants at a time. So it breaks one tenant, it leaves your other tenant different than that. And so one thing we're doing with Simeon is we're staying on top of all of those changes for you. So instead of you having to keep up with those changes, and then let's say you have all your PowerShell scripts set up for these screens, they change one screen, your PowerShell script doesn't work anymore. So with Simeon, we're regularly adapting. We worked through an issue last night, which was, they're changing the role from company administrator to global administrator. We're able to, help a lot of people with that. And so one other thing we're doing with the baseline is we're also staying on top of changes in Microsoft's recommendations. So as we know, they're always changing their security recommendations and their posture with security. And so what we do is with that baseline, we regularly make updates to the baseline and make it as secure as possible and as up to date as possible. So MSPs can free up their time and don't have to keep up to date with everything that Microsoft is changing and doing.
And, to drive the point of Microsoft changes, I dare anyone to tell me that they're keeping up with the Microsoft change emails that they send you literally almost twice a day, every week. And when it says major change, because I could tell you, I try to keep up with them, but there was one big one that screwed me real nice, that where they disabled the automatic forwarding. So all my emails going out to Synchro, because we have our help desk email and it automatically forwards over there. Well, that was broken for a nice little couple of hours trying to figure out what the heck happened. And it turned out, oh yeah, Microsoft did this change. And sure enough, when I did my Control F to find the email, it was there on top of 15 other changes that they'd said that major change. So, having someone at your back to make sure of these type of things is huge as well.
Absolutely. I mean, look, we were able to stay ahead of the curve for that one change because we have, fortunately, a dedicated person to keep track of all these changes, constantly monitoring Reddit, all those emails. For those listening, Reddit is a great place. I think I also have this app called Newsify where you can subscribe to different streams of information. So you can subscribe to Microsoft streams where they release different pieces of information that aren't necessarily in those major change update emails. And so, we had to, the day before that, I spent poking through their Exchange portal, reworking all of our mail flow rules, all of our forwarding rules. And for those that didn't see that one email, because of course they only emailed you once and didn't tell you anywhere else, if you missed that email, you could have missed a ton of emails and you could be in a seriously bad position there.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, yeah, that is amazing. Everybody thinks that technology is supposed to be easy. And, back in the beginning, I think that they kind of made it sound like, hey, technology is going to improve your life. It's going to make your life better. But all they've done is complicate it more. So it's great to have a company like yours that, Simeon can come in there and automate this stuff where it makes sense and really give you that baseline and give you a good starting point. Because without that, you are literally spending, hard-earned dollars that you could be, like you said earlier, getting other clients or doing other things in your business, working on your business.
Certainly.
And so it's a good thing.
Absolutely. And one other thing we want to really, there's so many different things that are packaged into Simeon Cloud. I urge all people listening to come if they want, see a free demo. We do them all the time, just showing off the software. If you're just interested in talking about it, seeing what we're doing, we're more than happy. But, as you get more into Simeon, you realize that, okay, not only is there a baseline and I can automate that out to all of my tenants, but I can also have a non-production environment where I can do a lot of testing and I can deploy that directly into a production environment. Or I can say, all right, this is a great looking tenant, but now I want to, let's say they want to change their domain name or they want to split up into two tenants. I can clone those configurations and put them in those two tenants. There's so many different ins and outs with Simeon, different things you can do. We also have a backup and restore functionality. So every day we take a backup of the current state of your tenant, thereby capturing all configuration changes made to your tenant. So we have, using Azure repos, we have a backup of every change that's ever been made to your tenant. And so let's say something goes wrong, Paco, let's say you set up Intune and then everything stops working. No one can access, no one can access without VPNs or whatever it might be. You can just use our software, go back to a point in time, put that fire out for the time being and resolve whatever problem. And then you can go back to those configurations you had before. And so one thing we're really an additional thing we're really trying to enable MSPs with is we're trying to enable MSPs to increase their service offering to their clients. So, a lot of, they are managed service providers. And of course, you can do the minimum. You can provide email, have a couple of security configurations in there, and that's fine. And your client, I'm sure, will be, we can say, content. Or you could offer your smaller businesses what enterprise level businesses have. And that's really what we're trying to do with Simeon. We're trying to get small businesses to start using Teams, different app packaging, offering all these different features such as autopilot. Like, let's say you have a doctor's office and you set up autopilot for them. And instead of them having to buy a laptop, send it to you, Paco, so you set it all up for them and then send it back to them days later, you can just say, all right, just order any laptop of your choice, enter in your credentials, and it's ready to go. And so, we're really trying to enable MSPs to increase their service offering, and we're certainly doing that through the baseline. One thing I like to mention is that we are actually building out support and building Windows Virtual Desktop into the baseline in the next 4 to 8 weeks. And we're really excited for this. I'm personally really excited for this. I have a big stake in this project, especially because we have companies like Nerdio who really are charging an exorbitant amount of money. I think it's $12 a user, something like that, which is more than half the cost of a business premium license. They're charging that just for Windows Virtual Desktop. So we're really looking forward to adding that to the baseline and just offering it to all of our clients and not even charging more than what we currently charge. And so, just to kind of reiterate that, we're really trying to help MSPs increase their service offering as well as save them time and automating their current practices.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things too, like you mentioned on the backup of those settings where, I was setting up MDM, right? So mobile device management, because on this show, Jeff says we hate acronyms, so I have to explain myself. But so as we configuring MDM, or there are many names, UDM for universal device management, EDM, endpoint device management, whatever the flavor they're going to use. But essentially, I was setting it up on my iPhone, and you have block jailbroken phones. Okay, cool. But then you get into the little nitty gritty of like passcodes and what versions. And I was like, man, if I really screwed this up and I got locked out of my phone right now, this sucks because I'm not in front of a computer for a while. So let me not try and do that. So we're here, trying to figure out what setting is it that screwed me, essentially. I have to figure out where that was, and this backup having to have that backup and restore, similar to obviously with the system restore for a Windows machine, is that much vital.
Absolutely. I did sorry, Jeff, I didn't mean to.
Oh no, I was just going to say your problem started with it being an iPhone, but anyways, I digress.
You're an Android guy. So I must say I have a new iPhone here as well.
Thank you.
You don't like the iPhone?
Not really.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, you haven't seen any of our older shows, have you? Oh man, those are rough. But
anyways, I'm sorry.
Not a problem. I love the banter. I love it. And so, Paco, one thing with what you're mentioning about that issue is, I certainly worked in this world a little bit before joining Simeon. I configured some Intune environments, did some work in Azure, O365, all the different portals. And now that I've used Simeon, I honestly can't imagine going back. And of course, I'm going to say that because I work for them. But really, with these functionalities like backup and restore, something like that, where I'm doing testing all the time, as an engineer there, I'm constantly testing different things. And without the backup and restore, testing would take so much longer because I can just put my tenant back in a state and then add something back and put my tenant back in its original state. Just like, I'm not sure if you both are familiar with Parallels, but something you can do with Parallels, the virtual machine software, is you can take a snapshot of the current state of your virtual machine. So I was testing autopilot the other day. And so I had my computer at the out-of-box experience state where you're about to log in with your credentials. I took a snapshot of it, and then I would sign in, see what autopilot did, go back to the point in time. Log in, see what autopilot did, go back to the point in time. And so being able to do that with Simeon is so crucial, and also not having the fear that you're going to lock yourself out or mess something up with your tenants, knowing that, okay, nothing's permanent. It's really good to have that peace of mind that nothing's permanent. And the other peace of mind, that comes with Simeon is just knowing the state of your tenants. So we do a lot of reporting with your tenants. We send you daily summary emails with a summary of all the changes made to your tenants in the past 24 hours. So you can keep track of all your techs and see what they're doing. And so, we're trying to enable people to know the state of their tenants and have that peace of mind, because Microsoft makes it impossible essentially to know just what configurations are even in your tenant. I'm sure, Paco, you might have some tenants you configured years ago that you're like, I honestly don't really know what's in this tenant. Simeon, you can simply do an export, see a list of all the different configurations that are in your tenant, and then choose, okay, I don't want that. I want to replace it with this. I want to revert to Microsoft's default for that. So we're really trying to enable MSPs, to increase their service offering and modernize the way that they're practicing technology.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people will look at, you said something earlier in the show about security and, having a security score and all that kind of stuff. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of people do leave their older clients behind just because to go back in and do all that stuff is just ridiculous. But I think to have some consistency in your business, and I think everybody should really think about this, your business should be consistent from the point of you're treating all of your customers the same, because obviously they're probably going to be paying you a similar rate, if not the same rate. And you should be taking care of them no matter whether it's a couple computer office to, hundreds of computers in an office.
Absolutely.
And because at the end of the day, that just makes you a better person because you're doing the right things and taking care of your customers across the board. So I think things like this are essential to running your business. And I think if you really need to check things like this out, because you need to figure out if something's not working for you, you got to figure out a better way to do it. And with software like this is a better way to do something that will probably work for you in your business and make your life a lot easier. I say a lot of times that a lot of people spend a lot of hours in their business, and it's like a hamster in a wheel. You're just running and running and running, and you're not going anywhere. And part of the reason for that is because you don't have a streamlined service offering that will take care of things like this that become overly complicated when you're trying to configure them and do things that you should be doing. And maybe you're not. And maybe this is something that you need to look at so that you can have that type of offering and make your life a little bit better. Take some vacations, play with the kids, go throw a ball
Absolutely.
in the backyard with a dog, whatever.
And have that peace of mind that everything is configured correctly and it's consistent.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I like that. Paco, got any other thoughts on we're going with the future on this endeavor?
Everything's in the cloud. No,
it is. I think. Hey, I think that I certainly do.
Sure. No, yeah, for sure. I think everything kind of going in this route and making I think the biggest piece to take away from this whole conversation is really, how do you make yourself more integrated with your client? And then how do you make your job easier so that you can do this? So, as our good friend John Davinsky always likes to say, if you can make things easier for you to support your clients, it's oftentimes easier for the client when they're doing their thing, whether that's standardization, whether that it is particular equipment, the way that things are done, licensing, vendors, etc., allows for a better experience. And being that, Intune is constantly evolving with a lot of the other Microsoft products in general, it is something where, if you are getting if you're getting involved into this whole thing, and really starting to deploy a lot of these details, you want to make sure that you are partner with partners that are going to make your job easier, right? And then that's the whole purpose of why, Simeon Cloud is in the market, right? It's the ability to not only help other MSPs, IT business owners that are trying to get involved into this product that they otherwise may have thought, it's not worth my time because I just don't have the time, and if you have the resources and the budget to be able to do so, it'll allow you to kind of get further than where you are at now and essentially scale.
I like it. All right, let's take a quick break. I'm going to have you guys gather any lasting thoughts. And David, anything that we haven't covered yet that you'd like to cover towards the end of the show, we'll definitely get that in there. But let's talk a little bit about if you would like to support what we're doing here. You can go to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged. And I want to thank those that continuously support us in the Patreon group. I appreciate that. And what that does is that gets you into the super secret Facebook group. And yes, I call it that because it used to be called that, and I don't know what they called it. I don't know, private group or something. Anyways, I like super secret Facebook group, even though I don't like Facebook. But right now, that's where we have everybody kind of meet up in a room where you can ask questions and not be treated like you don't know anything. And that is one of our things that everybody starts in this business at a certain point. And we all learn things differently. I am learning new things at 50 years old. I'm learning new things every single day. So if you're not learning new things, I don't know what to tell you. But I'm going to tell those out there that think they know everything, you don't. The more I learn, the less I know.
What was
Anyways,
the phrase that Chris used to say all the time?
Maybe. I don't know. I have to go back and, man, dude, I just told you I was 50. I mean, that's like an old memory. I don't remember what I had for breakfast. Come on.
You're giving life lessons. I figured you would know. But anyway. All right.
But anyways, it is a safe environment. And if anybody doesn't act right or act nice when somebody's asking a question or is rude or whatever, we just bring out Paco, the band hammer, LeBron, and he would just boot you right out of the group. No questions asked. We don't play those games. And so for the last, we've been running it for a couple years now, and everybody has been very, very nice. I mean, there was a couple issues where people were kind of just a little bit on edge, but nothing to where I'm going to tell you right now, this is why forums suck, because when you go into a forum, and not all forums, but most of them, when you go into a forum and you ask a question, what I've never understood is why a person would answer the question with another question or a statement that had nothing to do with the original question was asked. It's like, dude, go find something else to do instead of wasting my time reading through this thread. If you don't have an answer, shut up and let somebody that has an answer actually answer the question so that we can get on with our lives instead of reading through hundreds of threads to try to get the one little piece of information that we need.
Boy, and I hate that. The two things I hate the most is, one, when someone states opinion as fact, and two, when someone's asking a specific question on a particular product or vendor, and some person will go ahead and reply and say, yeah, we use this other product and it's been great. You need to take a look at it. Well, no, I don't give a flying hoot about that. I asked about this one specifically. I see those all the time. And I just think, how much time did you just waste it on both ends to just read this? And especially for someone who's searched for it to try and find information on it, and they're greeted with this commentary. So
I find that all the time on Reddit too. You know, I'll post, I used to post a lot of questions on Reddit, and people are really out to get you on some of those Reddit forums. It's like, sorry, I was trying to learn about this. Like, sorry, I don't know as much as you.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, it is a safe environment where we allow people in, and it's about $1 a show. I think that's what we're charging now. And so we do 4 or 5 shows a month, and it just, it helps put some, money in the tank so that we can hopefully in the future do some other cool things. I know one of our goals, and I guess I'll bring this out, one of our goals is to eventually get the group off of Facebook and get into our own environment that we control a little bit more. We use Facebook because it was easy, but we think we can create some other things that that would make a lot more sense. And we'd love to build repositories and stuff like that where people could get more information, have it searchable and all that kind of stuff. So we are in the future, we are looking to do something like that. So, keep that in mind. But definitely go over to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged. Or if you just, want to help a couple guys out, help us out. And we definitely appreciate that. All right, back to our conversation. So, David, is there anything that we haven't talked about when it comes to Simeon that you would like to mention right now that people need to know?
Certainly. I think one of the biggest things, I think I did mention this kind of within the other things I was saying, but one of the things is with a lot of these MSPs scaling nowadays, from here on out, there's only going to be more MSPs. There's only going to be more tenants to manage. It's just a ever-growing world. One thing we do is we help you provision tenants. Instead of having to set up all your tenants manually, you can just provision a fresh tenant, just how you want it configured. Paco, if you have your ideal set of configurations, you can deploy that to another tenant. And the other thing is that we want to help, at the end of the day, we just want to help MSPs be able to approach these tools and use them to their fullest. As we know, it's going to be required of MSPs to move into these tools, whether you want it or not. And if you don't move ahead with this, you're going to get hacked, or your clients are going to leave you and go to someone else who's using these tools. And so we really want to help MSPs. At the end of the day, we want to help MSPs modernize the way they practice technology so they can provide better services to their clients, and so they can scale their businesses, save them time, and save themselves money without having to, hire other people.
I like that, because nobody wants more employees. Well, maybe some people do. Right, Paco?
Employees have their own bag of problems themselves. So
exactly.
it's fun time.
So Paco, any other lasting thoughts before we get out of here?
No, just basically reach out to David and team. I did, because I realized the need. And even if you feel like you're not ready, it's good information to have, right? And to understand on how this all is going to look, and what to work toward as well.
Hey,
absolutely,
learn something new. Absolutely.
And we're more than happy.
I was going to say, David, can you give everybody where they need to go to get any more information, maybe get in contact with you, and get signed up for a demo and all that kind of good stuff?
Absolutely. Head over to simeoncloud.com. That's SIMEON cloud.com. Or you can email me at david@simeoncloud.com. I hope we can put both of those links in the description or whatever. And one thing I'll say is that we, of course, offer these free demos. We're happy to spend some time with you answering whatever questions, seeing how you're using Intune. And also, I think a special we could offer for people coming from this podcast is, let's say, a 2-month trial. I think that would be a fair thing to say. We typically offer 30 days or so. Let's extend that to 2 months for those who come from this podcast. So just let me know in our little submission form, or if you email me, let me know that you are coming from MSP Unplugged, and we'll get you set up right away.
Oh, that's awesome. I definitely appreciate that, David, and I appreciate your time coming on the show. And it's been wonderful listening to you about the product, and just hearing you share the goals and things behind the business, and what you guys are going out there for. So definitely a fresh of breath, breath of fresh air. Yeah, backwards. So it's nice to have those types of companies out there that are thinking about the end user in making their lives a lot better. So we definitely appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And
we definitely will have all those links in the show notes for you guys. And that's awesome. 2-month deal there, man. Hey, you know what? Check it out. And as Paco said earlier, hey, you guys need to learn. You should be learning in your business all the time. So take the time, and you should set this time in your business separately to take time to learn things like this. Go in, watch the demo, kind of get your hands on it and see what it can do. And if nothing else, it can give you ideas of what you probably should be doing. And, you definitely can, at least start there. But I think it makes a lot of sense for people that are deploying stuff to anything more than one customer.
It certainly does. Certainly does.
All right, Paco, if people want to find out more about you or where you're at, where could they go?
Well, they can tune into this fine programming every Friday at noon Eastern Daylight Savings Time. I can't forget where we're at.
Eastern time. Figure it out.
Eastern time, or 11 Central. Or you can catch us at one of the Facebook groups, or our own Facebook group if you contribute, and over at TechCon Unplugged, again, September 17th to the 19th.
Very cool. You can watch live and hang out in the chat room over on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. You can subscribe and hit that notification button so you never miss an episode. If you haven't done that, go ahead and do it. You can also use your favorite podcasting app to take us with you wherever you go, in the car, on a run, on a bike, wherever. You can listen to our fine voices. I've heard in the past that people used to listen to some of my shows when they were falling asleep, which didn't understand, but
Soothing voice.
I guess.
Or
So
they bore them half to death. But anyway,
that's what I was thinking. But yeah, good point. But anyways, you can do that. It's real easy. You can find us on all the platforms. We're everywhere. We're on the interwebs, the internet, everything in between. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.